There is a strange and holy power in silence. It is not the silence of defeat, nor the silence of fear. It is the silence of trust. A quiet posture that says to the heavens, I will not defend myself because I know my defender is near. Have you ever noticed that the loudest voices are often those most afraid? That the ones who scheme, hurt, and slander seem to fill the air with noise, while the truly strong stand quietly, waiting for a higher justice. The world teaches us to strike back when we are wronged, to raise our voices when we are misunderstood, to demand vindication when our hearts are broken. But heaven whispers a different instruction. Stay silent. Wait. Watch. There is something profoundly unnatural about staying silent when you have been wounded. Every fiber of the human heart aches to speak, to correct, to shout out the truth. But what if silence is not weakness? What if it is an act of spiritual warfare? What if your stillness is the very thing that invites God's hand to move where your words would only interfere? The wounded heart often believes it must fight to survive. It imagines that vindication must be immediate, that justice must be swift, that the pain must be acknowledged. Yet the great mysteries of faith reveal a higher way. The one who trusts God must sometimes choose to be silent, even when the soul cries out for explanation. Because sometimes it is not the one who speaks the loudest who wins. It is the one who trusts the deepest. Think about it. When Christ himself was falsely accused, when betrayal pierced him deeper than nails ever could, he did not hurl accusations. He did not beg for understanding. He stood silent before those who mocked him, knowing that truth needs no defense when God is the witness. Could it be that your silence in the face of betrayal is not an act of surrender, but an invitation for divine intervention? Could it be that your quietness is a shield God himself places around you, a sacred space where he prepares a justice that no human hand could accomplish? The temptation to defend yourself, to explain your innocence, to expose the cruelty of others is heavy. It weighs upon your chest like a stone. Yet, hidden within that tension is a secret promise. Those who wait upon the Lord shall see justice that no man can take away. When they hurt you, whether with whispers behind your back, betrayals behind closed doors, or actions cloaked in false kindness, you are not called to destroy them with your words. You are called to lift your eyes higher, to entrust the aching pieces of your heart to the only judge who sees both the action and the hidden motive. There is a battlefield that is invisible to the human eye, where angels and principalities contend over the wounded soul. And in this battlefield, your silence is not absence. It is an act of war. It declares, I will not stoop to their level. I will rise to my defenders. The walls built against you will crumble by hands unseen. The stones thrown at your reputation will be scattered by winds you cannot control. The traps laid for your fall will collapse under those who laid them. But you must stay silent. You must watch. You must trust that heaven's courtroom is already in session and its verdict will not be swayed by human opinion. So when they hurt you, stay silent. When they slander you, stay silent. When they twist your kindness into something ugly, stay silent. And watch how God, in his perfect wisdom and timing, will turn the tides in ways you could never orchestrate yourself. Because the truth needs no defense when God is your advocate, and victory belongs to the silent soul who trusts in him. Silence is your shield against their poison. There is a profound wisdom in choosing silence when hurt seeks to provoke you. Silence in its purest form is not merely the absence of words. It is a barrier, a fortress around your spirit. It is the unseen armor that shields you from the venom of those who aim to infect your soul with bitterness, anger, and despair. When someone wounds you, it is often not their first blow that causes the deepest damage. It is the reaction they hope to stir within you. They long to see your spirit broken, your heart corroded with resentment, your tongue set ablaze with retaliation. They want to pull you into the pit where they dwell, to see you roll in the same mud of rage and sorrow that dirties their hands. But when you remain silent, you refuse to enter their battlefield. You stand behind a shield they cannot pierce. Consider a warrior standing amidst a rain of arrows. It is not his shouting that saves him, it is the shield he raises. In the same way, your silence is your shield. It catches the poisoned arrows of insult, betrayal, mockery, and cruelty, preventing them from lodging deep within your heart. Every word you choose not to speak in anger is a blow deflected. Every insult you refuse to answer is a wound avoided. Every injustice you endure quietly is a fire that burns itself out without consuming you. Silence protects you from becoming like those who hurt you. It draws a sacred line in the sand and says, "You may wound my circumstances, but you will not wound my soul." It reminds you that you are not called to mirror the darkness of others, but to carry a light that cannot be extinguished by human malice. When you stay silent, you keep your spirit uncluttered by the chaos others wish to impose upon you. You do not become tangled in arguments that lead nowhere. You do not entangle your peace in the snares of their bitterness. You remain free, free to heal, free to rise, free to move forward without the weight of unnecessary battles clinging to your back. Moreover, silence allows you to process the hurt in the presence of God rather than in the court of public opinion. When you speak too soon, you risk speaking from your wound rather than from your wisdom. Hurt words birth more hurt. Bitter words give life to more bitterness. But when you retreat into silence, you grant yourself the grace of perspective. You allow the divine to minister to your heart before you open your mouth. You allow time to reveal truths that immediate anger might have hidden. Ask yourself, what are they trying to accomplish by hurting you? Do they seek to rob you of your joy? Do they wish to see your character crumble? Then understand that silence is not surrender, it is a powerful resistance. It is your declaration that your joy is not so fragile, your character not so shallow, that it can be shattered by mere human cruelty. Silence says you know who you are without needing to explain it. It says you trust that time, and more importantly, God, will bring every hidden thing to light in the appointed hour. In a world that shouts over every offense, that demands instant vindication and glories in public revenge, your silence becomes a countercultural act of profound strength. It says you are willing to wait for a higher justice, a deeper healing, a greater story to be told. It tells heaven and earth alike that your identity is rooted not in others' treatment of you, but in the unshakable truth of who you are before God. The hurt they cause is real. The sting of betrayal, the ache of abandonment, the wound of false accusations. These are not small things. They cut deep, but silence is your way of choosing not to let the wound become an infection. It is your way of saying, you may have caused me pain, but you will not define me by it. There is a wisdom in heaven that watches closely over the silent sufferer, the one who chooses not to return evil for evil, who holds their tongue when every fleshly instinct cries for retaliation, who trusts God's timing over man's applause. This one is seen, this one is honored, this one is protected, and in the end, this one will rise higher than those who tried to drag them down. God's justice is bigger than your immediate pain. In the rawness of betrayal, it feels as though justice must be immediate to be real. Our hearts cry out for a swift reckoning, for an instant balancing of the scales, for a punishment that matches the pain we carry. We imagine that if wrong is not answered right away, it will never be answered at all. But the justice of God operates on a timeline that stretches far beyond the urgency of human pain. His justice is not born in the fires of our anger, but in the deep, slow, perfect work of eternity. When you are wronged, the temptation is to act quickly, to correct, to defend, to retaliate. It feels unbearable to sit in the ache, to allow the world to misunderstand you, to let the whisperers and the betrayers walk freely while you carry the burden of their sins. Yet, every moment you resist the urge to take matters into your own hands, you declare a profound truth: that God's justice is not only real, but worth trusting, even when you cannot yet see its hand moving. Your immediate pain is powerful. It clouds your vision, it fills your soul with a demand for resolution. But God's justice sees beyond the momentary. It sees not just what was done to you, but what will be required to bring a full restoration. Not just a surface-level compensation, but a deep, soul-healing vindication that no earthly revenge could ever accomplish. There are things that only heaven can repay. There are wrongs so layered, betrayals so hidden, wounds so intricate that only the justice of God can untangle them and set them right. Imagine a tapestry woven with 1,000 threads, each stitch representing a lie, a wound, a betrayal. From the ground it looks like a chaotic, tangled mess. But from above, from the perspective of heaven, there is a pattern, a purpose unfolding even through the pain. God's justice is not about quick fixes. It is about weaving even the darkest threads into a masterpiece that reflects His glory and your ultimate victory. When you trust God's justice, you trust that He sees every hidden thing, the slighted look, the malicious word, the betrayal done in secret. All of it is laid bare before His throne. No slight is too small, no wound too hidden. And His justice is not satisfied with partial payments. He aims to repay fully, to restore completely, to bring about a reckoning so perfect that you will one day stand in awe and say, "Had I taken matters into my own hands, I would have settled for far less." Pain tricks you into urgency. It tells you that if justice does not come now, it will not come at all. But heaven speaks differently. It says, wait, trust, watch. Justice is coming, and when it comes, it will be thorough. It will not merely expose the wrong, it will vindicate your endurance. It will crown your patience. It will make your silence shine like the morning sun breaking through a long night. There will come a day when those who hurt you will be confronted, not by your words, not by your efforts, but by the weight of their own actions falling upon their heads. There will come a moment when the darkness they sowed in secret will choke the gardens they tried to plant with lies. And you will be able to stand in peace, not because you fought harder, but because you trusted deeper. God's justice works beyond the immediate. It is a slow river that carves mountains. It is an unseen hand that topples empires of pride with a single breath. And it is on your side. Every tear you have shed, every sleepless night you have endured, every silent cry you have uttered, none of it is wasted. It is all being gathered into the great ledger of heaven, and the day will come when the scales will tip. Stay silent then. Not because the pain isn't real, not because you are weak, but because you believe in a justice higher than human hands can deliver. Believe that the God who sees your pain also holds your future. Believe that the one who allowed the wound is the same one preparing the healing, the vindication, and the restoration. And when that day comes, it will be clear to all. The justice of God was always bigger, deeper, and more complete than the immediate comfort you once thought you needed. Silence allows God to speak louder on your behalf. There is a sacred mystery in silence, a power that moves beyond human understanding. When you choose silence in the face of betrayal or injustice, you are not resigning yourself to defeat. You are creating space for a voice greater than your own to speak on your behalf. It is one thing for a wounded heart to cry out for justice, but it is an entirely different thing for heaven itself to thunder in your defense. There are times when your silence becomes the canvas upon which God writes his most powerful declarations. The temptation to defend yourself is overwhelming when you are misunderstood, mistreated, or maligned. Your heart burns with the desire to correct the lies, to reveal the truth, to make the hidden visible. Yet the human voice, no matter how loud, often falls on ears that do not wish to hear. Words spoken from pain can be twisted, misunderstood, or dismissed, but the voice of God, when he chooses to speak, cannot be ignored. It moves mountains, shakes kingdoms, and pierces the hardest hearts with undeniable force. Imagine standing before a sea of accusations, your heart raw and trembling. Every instinct within you screams to shout your innocence, to expose the deceit, but instead, you bow your head and hold your peace. In that moment, heaven leans in. Angels take notice, and the God who sees every hidden motive steps into the courtroom of your life. Your silence becomes an invitation for him to act, to reveal, to vindicate in ways your words never could. When you stay silent, you acknowledge a profound truth, that your reputation, your dignity, your story is safest in the hands of God, not in the hands of man. You relinquish the fragile tools of human justification and take up the impenetrable armor of divine defense. You stop fighting a battle you were never meant to fight alone, and allow the Lord, who never loses a battle, to step onto the field. It is a humbling thing to let go of the need to be understood. It is a fierce act of faith to choose silence when every bone in your body longs to speak. Yet, it is in that surrender that you find a power beyond your own. The Creator of the universe, who sees every hidden conversation, every secret betrayal, every whispered lie, begins to speak for you in ways that no defense attorney could match. He arranges circumstances, reveals truths, and lifts veils at the appointed time. Ask yourself, whose voice would you rather the world hear? Yours, straining through tears and hurt, or his, resonating with undeniable authority? The choice to stay silent is the choice to trust that his voice will be louder, clearer, and infinitely more effective than your own. Silence does not mean acceptance of injustice. It does not mean pretending the pain does not exist. Rather, it means you are wise enough to know that timing matters, that the source of vindication matters, that the one who speaks on your behalf must be greater than the one who accuses you. And when God speaks, the impact is profound. Those who once believed the worst about you begin to question their own judgments. Those who plotted against you find their schemes unraveling in their own hands. Those who celebrated your downfall watch in stunned silence as God raises you up, untouched by their malice. In the end, the story told by God is the only one that endures. Human narratives are fickle, swayed by rumor and emotion, but the narrative authored by heaven stands unshaken. It is written with a hand that cannot err, sealed by a truth that cannot be undone. So when you feel the urge to defend yourself, to cry out against the injustice, remember the deeper invitation. Stay silent, not because you are weak, but because you are wise. Because you trust that the voice of heaven will one day speak so loudly on your behalf that every false whisper will be drowned in the sound of truth. Vindication comes not by force, but by faith. It is a hard lesson to learn, but one that every wounded heart must eventually face. True vindication is not something you can force into existence. It is not earned by the strength of your arguments, nor by the sharpness of your wit, nor by the persistence of your efforts. Vindication, the deep, soul-healing kind, comes only by faith. It is a gift given in response to trust, not a prize seized through striving. When someone wrongs you, your natural instinct is to fight for your name, to demand recognition of the truth, to force an acknowledgement of your pain. The world teaches that victory belongs to the bold, that the louder voice wins, that justice must be claimed by the strong. But heaven teaches a different story. In the economy of God, vindication is the reward of those who trust rather than retaliate, who believe rather than battle, who wait rather than grasp. There is a painful beauty in laying down your weapons when everything within you screams to fight. It is not an act of passivity, but of profound courage. It is declaring with your life that you believe in a justice higher than human courts, in a vindication deeper than human apologies. You believe that the one who knows the full story, the parts you could never prove, the motives you could never explain, will act in his time and his way. Faith demands that you step back when your pride demands you step forward. It demands that you let go when your heart wants to cling. It demands that you trust that the seeds of truth you have sown, though trampled now, will one day bear fruit so visible that none can deny it. This kind of faith is costly. It feels like surrender. It feels like dying. And in many ways it is. It is the death of your need to control, your need to be understood, your need to be justified in the eyes of others. But from that death comes a life stronger than anything you could have manufactured on your own. Vindication that comes by faith is unshakable because it is rooted not in human approval, but in divine declaration. When God vindicates you, no accusation can stick, no slander can stain, no betrayal can undo the restoration he brings. Consider the stories written in the folds of history. Stories of those who suffered quietly, who bore injustice with dignity, who trusted God when every outward sign said he had forgotten them. In the end, their lives shone brighter than those who tried to crush them. Their character, purified in the fire of waiting, became a testimony stronger than any argument could have forged. Your pain is not invisible. Your tears are not wasted. They are the seeds of a vindication that will not be rushed, a justice that will not be shallow. They are being gathered into the hands of a God who misses nothing, who forgets nothing, who will weave even your most broken moments into a tapestry of undeniable redemption. Do not be deceived by the silence of heaven. Just because you cannot see the hand of God moving does not mean it is still. Often the most profound works are accomplished in the hidden places, where roots grow deep before fruit appears. Your vindication is being prepared, not hastily, not sloppily, but with the care of an artist crafting a masterpiece. When it comes, it will be better than anything you could have demanded, more complete than anything you could have forced. Trust that your restraint is not in vain. Trust that your silence is not weakness, but wisdom. Trust that your faith is not empty, but powerful. Vindication is not the reward of the bitter or the loud. It is the crown placed upon the heads of those who dared to believe that God's ways, though slower, are always higher, deeper, and better. Silence is often mistaken for weakness in a world obsessed with noise. People believe that if you are silent when wronged, you are powerless, defeated, or too afraid to fight back. But the truth is the opposite. Silence is often the last defense of the truly dignified. It is the armor worn by those who understand that dignity is not found in shouting matches or public spectacles, but in the quiet strength of restraint. When you choose silence in the face of betrayal, you are not surrendering your worth. You are preserving it. When someone chooses to betray you, to slander your name, or to mistreat your loyalty, they are not exposing your flaws, they are exposing their own. Their behavior reflects their own brokenness, not your failure. And when you remain silent, when you refuse to stoop to their level, you force that truth to stand alone, naked and undeniable. You allow their actions to speak for themselves, while your silence speaks volumes about your character. There is nothing more powerful than refusing to hand your dignity over to someone who has already shown they do not deserve it. Those who hurt others often hope for a reaction. They want you to scream, to lash out, to crumble, because in your reaction they find a way to justify their betrayal. If you rage, they can tell themselves you were unstable. If you beg, they can convince themselves you were weak. If you attack, they can claim victimhood. But when you remain calm, when you stay dignified in your silence, you deny them every excuse. You leave them standing alone with the full weight of their wrongdoing pressing down on their shoulders. There is a sacred kind of revenge in refusing to let another person's betrayal stain your soul. In the world's eyes, retaliation might seem like the natural response, the sign that you are fighting back, reclaiming your pride. But true pride, true strength, lies in knowing you have nothing to prove to those who have already diminished themselves. Their character collapse does not require your participation. It does not demand your voice. It simply unfolds slowly and inevitably under the heavy scrutiny of truth itself. Think of the difference between a calm sea and a raging storm. The calm sea reflects the sky above it, clear and untroubled. The stormy sea distorts everything, making even the most beautiful day seem dark. When you are silent, you are the calm sea. You reflect the truth, unbothered by the storm raging outside of you. But if you allow their chaos to pull you in, you lose the clarity that separates you from them. You become part of the same storm you despise. There will be moments when everything inside you screams for justice, demands to be heard, craves for your side to be told. You will ache for the world to understand your innocence, your hurt, your betrayal. But understand this: dignity is not about who understands you. It is about who you choose to be when you are misunderstood. It is about choosing your future over a momentary satisfaction. It is about guarding your spirit. The ones who betrayed you may laugh for a moment. They may parade their new victories, their shallow alliances, their temporary comfort. They may believe they have won. But victory bought with betrayal is always short-lived. In time, the truth always surfaces. Their alliances crumble. Their comfort turns cold. Their laughter echoes back at them, hollow and meaningless. And when that time comes, your silence will stand as a monument to your strength, a reminder that you did not descend into the darkness with them. Your dignity is not for sale, not to those who lied, not to those who betrayed, not to those who chose selfishness over loyalty. Every time you stay silent in the face of provocation, every time you refuse to defend yourself to people determined to misunderstand you, every time you hold your head high when everything inside you wants to scream, you reclaim a piece of yourself they could never touch. It takes great courage to walk away from the noise. It takes even greater courage to walk away without bitterness. Silence is not just the absence of words. It is the presence of wisdom. It is the quiet understanding that not every battle is worth your energy. Some battles are won simply by refusing to show up. And when you choose silence, you give yourself the greatest gift. You remain whole. You remain at peace. You remain dignified, while those who wronged you lose themselves in the chaos they created. In the end, it is not your anger they will remember. It is your strength. It is not your retaliation that will haunt them. It is your unwavering calm. Silence, when chosen wisely, becomes the roar that shakes the very ground beneath the feet of those who believed they had defeated you. There is a deep, almost unbearable pain in being wronged and having no way to prove it. Betrayal often happens behind closed doors, in whispered conversations, in carefully concealed actions where witnesses are few and evidence is scarce. And perhaps what wounds the soul even more than the betrayal itself is the gnawing injustice of it. The feeling that you have been wronged, yet cannot defend yourself in the eyes of the world. It is a loneliness that cannot be fully described, a silent ache that words cannot heal. But there is a higher truth that remains unshaken, even when your voice feels silenced. God sees what you cannot prove. When you have been betrayed, when you have been misrepresented, when your loyalty has been twisted into a weapon against you, it feels as though reality itself has been bent out of shape. You begin to question your own memories. You wonder if you are overreacting, if perhaps you misunderstood. You second-guess yourself, not because you are wrong, but because the evidence you long to show others remains hidden. Yet in the courts of heaven, no evidence is missing. No conversation is erased. No action is unseen. God witnessed every word spoken in secret, every plot devised in darkness, every heart motive hidden from human eyes. There is a holy comfort in knowing that you do not stand alone. You may not be able to prove your innocence to those around you. You may not be able to make the liars confess or the deceivers tell the truth, but you do not need to, because the one who matters most already knows. His eyes have recorded what human courts have overlooked. His heart has felt the sting of your betrayal alongside you, and his justice is not swayed by lies, manipulation, or appearances. Trusting that God sees what you cannot prove requires a level of faith that stretches the soul. It means releasing your need to be understood, your craving to be validated, your desperate desire for others to acknowledge your pain. It means believing that in the unseen realm, the balance is already tipping in your favor. Even if in the natural world it looks like you are losing. It means walking forward with your head held high, not because your name has been cleared by human lips, but because your name is held sacred in the mind of God. There will be days when the weight of falsehoods feels too heavy to bear. There will be moments when you see your betrayers laughing, celebrating, moving on as if nothing ever happened, and you will wonder if justice is merely an illusion. But look deeper. Time is a slow and faithful servant of truth. Lies decay over time. Betrayal poisons the very hands that commit it. Deceit rots the spirit from the inside out, and while you may not see it today, the unraveling has already begun. You do not need to chase after your vindication. You do not need to gather witnesses or evidence. You do not need to exhaust yourself trying to convince people of what really happened. Your task is simply to remain true to who you are, to continue living with integrity, to continue walking in kindness, to continue shining with the quiet strength that only those who have suffered deeply can carry. Because the story is not over, and the author of your story is not finished. Those who betrayed you built their future on stolen stones, thinking no one would notice the cracks, but God sees. He sees every heartache you endured in silence. He sees every time you swallowed your pain to protect someone else's image. He sees every moment you chose grace when you could have chosen revenge. And in his perfect timing, He will repay every injustice, not out of anger, but out of divine righteousness that cannot be thwarted. There is something profoundly powerful about trusting God with your reputation, about believing that the truth will emerge not through your striving, but through His sovereign hand. When you place your trust in Him, you allow yourself to heal without needing the apology that may never come. You free yourself from the exhausting task of defending your name, and you place your identity in the hands of the one who called you by name long before betrayal ever touched your life. Let others believe what they wish for now. Let the betrayers bask in their temporary triumph. Their joy is built on sinking sand. Yours is being rooted in eternal truth. There will come a day when masks will fall, when facades will crumble, when every hidden thing will be brought to light. And when that day comes, it will not be your rage that wins the battle. It will be your silence, your faith, your unwavering dignity. In the meantime, let your soul rest in this unshakable assurance. God saw, God knows, God remembers, and God is not mocked. What a man sows, that shall he also reap. They may outrun human consequences for a season, but they cannot outrun the consequences that heaven has already set in motion. Walk on, silent warrior. Walk on with your heart intact, your hands clean, and your spirit lifted high. You are not alone. You are not unseen. You are not forgotten. In the end, your truth will rise, not by force, not by argument, but by the quiet, invincible justice of the God who saw everything you could not prove. In a world that equates noise with power, silence is often misunderstood. To stay silent is seen as surrender, as if the one who holds their tongue has already lost the battle. But true silence, the kind chosen with wisdom and intention, is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of trust. It is not giving up the fight. It is handing the fight over to hands far more capable than yours. It is the quiet surrender that says, "This burden is not mine to carry. This battle is not mine to win alone." When you stay silent after betrayal, after false accusation, after cruel treatment, it feels unnatural. Everything inside you screams to defend yourself, to explain, to fight for your honor. But there is a higher wisdom that calls you beyond that instinct. It whispers that dignity is not found in loud defenses, but in quiet faith. It teaches you that true victory is not about convincing others of your worth. It is about knowing your worth so deeply that you no longer feel the need to convince anyone at all. Staying silent is not passive, it is active faith. It is choosing to believe that there is a higher justice at work, even when you cannot see it yet. It is believing that the God who saw the betrayal, who heard the lies, who felt the sting of your rejection, is already moving on your behalf. Silence, in this sacred sense, is not the absence of action. It is the act of handing your case to the only judge who can truly see all sides, all hearts. When you stay silent, you are not abandoning yourself. You are protecting yourself. You are refusing to enter battles that only drain your soul and distract you from your purpose. You are refusing to dignify the lies with your attention, refusing to validate the betrayer's actions with your outrage. You are stepping back, not because you are defeated, but because you know that your energy, your peace, your future are too valuable to be wasted in futile fights. There is a deep strength required to hand over your pain instead of holding on to it. To say, "God, I will not seek revenge. I will not demand validation. I will trust you to defend me in ways I cannot defend myself." That is not weakness. That is spiritual maturity. That is courage. And it is a courage that few understand until they are faced with the kind of hurt that makes silence feel impossible. When you choose to stay silent, you choose to heal rather than to reopen wounds. You choose to build your future rather than being trapped in cycles of retaliation. You choose to believe that vindication does not have to come through your own hands. It will come through the hands that shape the stars, through the wisdom that governs the universe, through the heart that loves justice more fiercely than you ever could.